Hello there, everybody, and tonight we are going to be doing our second ever bonus roundtable hosted by Team Bonus Action. Today we are going to be covering the topic of what game made you, covering our favorite games that we believe had a positive impact on us in some way, starting as a child and then as a teenager and as an adult. And so I'm Freki V. I will be the primary host, and I will let the rest of the cast introduce themselves.
I am a Vokove. Um, I'm pretty much a lifelong gamer, be it childish games like tag, hide and seek, or video games. Starting from the Genesis, I used to play a lot of Sonic and Mega Man with my brother, and it's kind of evolved into playing all sorts of games now. Uh, and recently, I've gotten into Warhammer. So that's about it. I'll turn it over to somebody else.
We can just go up, I bet. Or I can just go. I'll go.
Just go for it.
I'm going. Hey, LeBlanc. Anyway, yeah, I am Grave or Zeta. I'm the younger brother of Volkov, and also, spent most of my life being an awkward gamer. I spent a lot of my time, like, just kind of like riding on the coattails of all the games Nathan used to play. But I do remember vividly, like, certain games throughout my life, like Dune and Sonic Adventure 2, aka Chow Game, really had an impact on me. And now recently, I've been last 2 years I've been getting back into like D&D and now Warhammer. So yeah, that's me.
All right, and now Spence.
All right, hey everybody on stream. That this is a Ninjaspence. You can just call me Spence. And then games have been a part of my life ever since I have been a child. That funny story that we will get into too about during just the childhood segment. But I was basically a lot of climbing, and I was kind of like an outside kid, but I was also the gamer too. So I grew up with both a NES and also a Sega Genesis. I did play Sonic the Hedgehog 2, along with Super Mario All Stars, but also as a teenager, I believe that my first RPG was Final Fantasy 9, and that had just made me set for the genre. And then as just that I had got older, I have a funny story about how I got into tabletop gaming, and then I had been doing D&D and more, and just sort of more of like the action RPGs such as the Soulsborne series and then Metrovania. So I'm gonna just turn it back over to Six so she can introduce our topics.
All right, sounds good. I think probably the first thing that we'll want to do is we can go through and discuss what it was that was the game that you preferred as a child and why you think that was something that maybe impacted you, either as far as, what you like to play nowadays or something that was going on in your life at the time that maybe it was like, a release from or an escape from or things like that, or if it was just fun. So, Topher, let's actually start with you and see what you have to say as far as what was your favorite game when you were younger, around what age, and how did you get into that game?
Well, oh shit. Well, it's kind of a hard thing to pinpoint for me because there were like a lot of games and a lot of game systems that I really enjoyed.
Do you remember eating spaghetti on that little ass table? I'm sorry, that little table.
Yeah,
Playing Mega Man.
I do remember that. I actually remember going up to we had a local game store that was pretty like now for me now it'd be walking distance, but like we'd just drive up there and I would just spend a lot of time like looking at all the old NES games. I think at that time NES was kind of on its way out the door. But I think the two series that really come to mind, one of which I just started getting back into, the other one I haven't played since the first one. oh fuck, there's like 3 or 4 now. They're popping up in my head now. Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, was a big fucking influence on me, I think.
And what age did you get into that game, though? Because when I think of games that, I played as a kid, that's not exactly the type of game that
I
comes
played
to
it
mind.
at like 8.
Good lord.
Like, you could ask Nate. Like, I was watching horror movies around that time, too.
I won't say that our parents were very responsible.
Yeah, they were responsible. They wouldn't let me look at... They didn't care as much about, like, the violent stuff. They were fine with that. They cared if it had like sex scenes or not. They were like, my mom especially is very much like very much like looking
Very
at
wild.
what out. Yeah, I remember like you've seen like the Lost Boys. There's like one quote unquote sex scene in it, which is not like, it's the most vague sex scene you could ever have. Like, I'm pretty sure Joel Schumacher was just like, let's just go. Let's get back to the vampire boys. And
it was like a sex scene that clearly somebody who had never had sex before would make.
Yeah. But my mom was still like, no, we can't do this. We can't do that. Can't do that. No. But if it was like, I think the first time I watched, I was like 8 years old, 7 or 8 when I first watched Dawn of the Dead. And I think once I got my PlayStation, my first game, no, Leisure Suit Larry. The first game, one of the first games I bought was Resident Evil, and it was just really fun and engaging. I like the thrill of horror in general, just because there's like a mystery to it. It's kind of like if you're into true crimes, or if you're into like that sort of genre where...
This is getting off topic, but do you remember Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's first movie?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, you know who? Me and Julie were talking about that movie, and I had literally never known anybody else who had knew that movie.
Yeah, like it is kind of like, it was before Lord of the Rings, so most people don't know about it. But yeah, like Resident Evil, and then like Resident Evil 2, of course. A little bit of 3, Code Veronica. Holy shit, I played the shit out of that when I got my Dreamcast. Played that for days.
What type of game was that? I've heard of the name before, but obviously, like, we recognize Resident Evil and stuff like that, but that one I'm not as familiar with.
I mean, it played like your average Resident Evil game. The difference being, instead of having like not the cells, but the drawn backdrops. Like, the original one had drawn backdrops and fixed camera angles. It would have semi-fixed camera angles, but all the backdrops were, all the background was rendered. It was like one of the first Resident Evil games to fully render everything.
Oh, nice.
So when you would move, sometimes the camera would move with you. And it was, aside from that, it was a fairly average, if not really silly, Resident Evil game. Like nowadays, I don't think it's aged well. Like, I have like, rose-colored glasses about it, but it's really silly. Has some really bad cringy moments too, like, but I won't get too much into it. But yeah, like, I think like that, along with like the movies I started watching, really stamped me to be like a big horror nerd. So.
And see, I just ended up with lifelong trauma with all of those that I accidentally watched as a kid.
I don't know. I'm weird. Like, there's very few movies that I was ever like... I've never had like a horror movie like traumatize me, quote unquote. I've had moments that have made me whinge a bit, but I haven't had like, I never was actually scared of horror films like most people were. Not
That's
even
fair.
as a kid.
Probably helped
kinda
with
weird.
the desensitizing as well, just a little bit.
Oh yeah. So what is do we want to go down the list,
Sure.
Spence?
Well, yes, of course. But anyway, then as a kid, that Well, for starters, that my dad was up in the military, and then he served up in Operation Desert Shield, which turned up into Desert Storm. But I remember at the tender age of 3 years old that I was at just my grandma's, and then that my dad had sent me a Sega Genesis and also a Super Nintendo. So I kind of had the best of both worlds growing up. But I had mainly stuck with Nintendo for one thing, and that was Super Mario World and Super Mario All Stars. And that if that anyone in that the chat is wondering that I am the youngest one here I believe. But anyway, that's kind of besides the point. That I just remember being so gravitated towards like all of the Super Mario games, and then I beat them in order, except for that the lost levels, which which is actually the which is actually the actual Super Mario Brothers 2 Japanese version, because that the Super Mario Brothers 2 we got was just actually a reskin of Doki Doki Panic, because of the fact that Japan thought that we Americans were going to be complaining about the fact that Super Mario would be too hard, aka that the lost levels. But anyway, then that whenever Super Mario World came out, it was just basically a whole nother atmosphere for me just to be platforming and such like that. And then that and then that I am the exact opposite of Grave. I got scarred as a kid with horror movies, like like Candyman. That was the first
Oh yeah, I love
horror
Candyman.
movie that I basically watched, and I was like, nope, nope. I would have bad night terrors and such. But up in just my younger years, oh yeah, about the climbing thing, that my grandma, she would have these two big like, I want to say tractor tires that are kind of like dug up halfway up into her yard. And then that whenever that I was about 5 years old, because that for some odd reason at 3 years old I was not allowed to go outside and then touch grass. That this is a true story. But anyway,
That
but
pesky
anyway,
grass.
then exactly, pesky grass, damaging clothes and such.
Darn
We
grass.
hate grass, but anyway. But
Sorry,
anyway, then
that's
I
just
was
funny.
just no, no, trust me, that I have a lot more funny stories like that. But anyway, that back to these giant tractor tires that I would basically climb up on and then just jump off, because I was just big into platformers from about until 10 years old. So I played all of my Crash Bandicoots, my Sonic the Hedgehogs, and then I was just a big fan of that genre. And then it just basically, I really and truly did not get up into like up into like storytelling type of gaming and stuff, even though that I basically grew up with all of that kind of games and stuff. Because that's surprisingly enough that I did not pick up Final Fantasy VII as a kid. I had only played bits and pieces of the original as a child, but never all the way through.
Yeah, I played like the Final Fantasy games,
Yeah,
like when I was a kid, but
I've only ever gotten to where Ariel dies. Spoiler.
Ariel, Aerith, you mean Aerith?
Yes, that is what I mean. I apologize.
Ariel.
I
Oh my
believe
wow,
god,
we're
they
gonna make
killed
some
a
fans
mermaid.
mad now.
Hey, the nerdy Final Fantasy
I
army.
mean, for a 23-year-old game now.
Yeah, like when I played the Final Fantasy games when I was a kid, but they didn't really stick with me as much until later when I started getting the Final Fantasy 14. And then I went back and started playing. Like I still haven't beat it, but I played a lot of FF7, FF8, FF9.
Yeah.
Like I actually streamed FF9 at one point.
Spence, I did want to ask, so with kind of growing up with more of like the Super Mario style games and everything, do you feel like nowadays with the modern platformers, do you tend to prefer modern platform games kind of because of that, or do you kind of have more of a broad scope of like the type of games that you play? And if you like the modern ones, are there any new franchises that you've tried that you actually enjoy?
Now, I was the type of gamer growing up as a kid that, that basically that I just have just if I got into a game, I had basically stuck to it until I finished it, because that I believe Super Mario Brothers 3 is actually my favorite one in the series because it came out. I know that that game came out in 1989, which was also the year that I was born, but for that the most part, I try to translate all of that tech that I have learned for platformers for just basically for just a broad scope of games that I use, because that, up in a sense that kind of like inspires some of our dungeons and stuff, just, that, like platformers, that they have your basic plains and grass levels, then that they got the fire zone, then that they got the air or else that the sky area, water levels, etc., etc. So it just goes back to basically, just that basic video game fundamental of basically, different level variety. And then I guess then that, that's something that kind of has always kind of like stuck with me over the years. It's just becoming that just so thematic up in stories and such.
That is very true. There does kind of seem to be that classic formula of water levels suck.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to do with just like the nature of how like water levels are
The true
usually
3D
made.
movement, yeah.
Yeah. Have y'all ever played the original water level, Teenage Mutant
Oh
Ninja
God,
Turtles, on the internet?
I can't say
that
I've
is
played
actually.
it,
I remember just walking away. Like, that's the game I don't think we ever finished, because we got to that level and we were like, no.
I just get Ocarina of Time Water Temple flashbacks, honestly. Oof. All right.
Oh, I mean, they're everywhere, aren't they?
They really are. Okay, and then Nate, we'll do the same for you. And again, it doesn't have to be a video game. I think you kind of also mentioned, more of the physical games and stuff. So for
I just
you,
remember,
Ryu,
I remember riding our bikes around the neighborhood, and we play hide and seek for like a day. Like, we'd inappropriately hide in people's yards, and I don't know. I just have a very fond memories of hide and seek, bike riding, chasing each other down. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old, but
Yeah, a little bit old.
I think I'm the oldest person here.
I
Pretty
think you
sure.
are.
I'm pretty sure I am.
How old are you? Like 45?
Close to it. You're only 3 years younger than me, so
Yeah, I know.
don't be cocky.
yeah. And I'm actually the youngest outside of Spence, so believe it
Oh,
or not,
man.
Spence is actually older than me. So, but either way, though, I do think back in the day, though, especially with hide and seek, like I also remember entering other people's yards
Really?
wasn't really. Yeah, I'm only 27. I was born in '93.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, I'm like 33.
Okay.
But with like the hide and seek and everything, like you were saying, Nate, like it. I remember going through other neighbors' yards and things like that, and that wasn't really like a taboo back then.
I'm talking like we hid in their fenced backyard.
Shit, we used to do some. Oh crap! Ah, darn it!
just go, just keep talking.
Oh man.
Like I remember, like you see, the problem is when my friends would do something, or when we would go out into the neighborhood, we would always go looking for trouble, basically. So, like we used to have.
I remember a broom and a fire truck.
Yeah. Don't.
I'm sorry. We'll stop there.
Okay, no
that
incriminating
was bad.
information, please.
Nah, it's not that. It's more embarrassing. No, there was this game we used to play. Like when we were outside, one of my friends would be on one side of the road, and one of us would be on the other side, and we'd be throwing like one of those old Nerf footballs to each other, and then like we would wait for a car to come by, and then we'd hit the car and run. We were bad, so this is why like being inside and playing games was probably best for me and my friends.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mostly
Yeah.
just got in trouble for like ding dong ditching. My mom used to get on my butt about that. But
Well, the one thing I do remember, we were never very good at it. Me and Chris playing Mega Man, or Topher, or Grave. Sorry.
I
we're
don't
kind of
care,
all
just
over the
call me
place with the
whatever.
names anyway. So
Like
Like
I'm all over the place because
So
I have
am
like
I the only
5 names.
saint of the group? I never ding dong ditched, TP'd anyone or anything like that.
To be
as a
fair,
kid.
when I hit my teens, like once I got to like 16 or 17, I say, I got better. I swear I got better.
He did. We definitely did. We had our issues, but we were just kids.
Hmm.
He did. One game I do remember fondly because you gave it to me was Grand Theft Auto 4, which I know Grand Theft Auto is kind of
Or do you mean 3 or?
No, I mean you remember you gave me your old 360 when it first came
Oh
out.
yeah, I did. I hear, like, I have a friend that just played GTA 4 and said it was really good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good game. But I'm just saying, I still have your Xbox account that you made.
Oh shit!
So
Oh,
I'm
darn.
if you ever want to play with the Rat Monkey, I'm out there, y'all.
Oh wow,
The
that
rat-
is old. That's a old deep cut. Like I'm scared of putting that name out there. I was a whole different person back then.
You were.
But
well, on the topic then of kind of getting into the teenage years, we'll reverse the order now. And so, Nate, since you kind of were leading that way a little bit, what would you say would be your answer as far as games that you liked as a teenager?
There's two that stand out. Baldur's Gate, which was just a fantastic. It really got me into D&D and got me into fantasy and got me into writing. Really, you know, I still like to write. And Dune 2. I don't know if you know anything about the Dune series. The Dune, the book, is like Lord of the Rings of science fiction. Easily one of the greatest books ever written.
That's kind of
Like
what I've
Dune-
heard, yeah.
Dune 2 was like a fan. Like even like in terms of like normal RTS, it's actually really good.
It still holds up today.
Yeah.
You can play it for free on. I'm pretty sure there's web browser. It's so old. Like Flash games are probably bigger than it, but the graphics are pretty decent for what it is.
Was it a PC game originally?
Yes.
Gotcha. So with Baldur's Gate, then I've heard and seen some stuff about like the newer ones that's coming out. But what type of game was it? Was it like an RPG?
It was an RPG. It used the second edition rules for Dungeons and Dragons. The new one uses 5e. I have it. It's out in early access. Unfortunately, I need to upgrade to really get into the game. So I haven't been able to play 3. But 1 and 2, they're classics not only because of they made Advanced Dungeons and Dragons a lot easier to understand. You don't have to know calculus to actually play. But the story is wonderful.
Wasn't Baldur's Gate 2 3.5?
No, you're thinking Neverwinter Nights.
Okay, Neverwinter Night. Wait, wasn't Icewind Dale? I remember one switches over.
It's Neverwinter Nights. Icewind Dale 2 are both 2.
Neverwinter Night is that the free to play version, which is basically kind of
No,
like
This is the
multiplayer online game.
That's just Neverwinter, which came
yeah,
out like
Neverwinter Nights is
6-ish
the
years ago. Yeah.
it's the old BioWare classic. I
always
think it was
forget that that's
BioWare that
BioWare.
made it. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
it's
it
hard
is.
it's hard to think of BioWare making a good game nowadays, right?
Don't
Sorry.
make me hurt. I miss my classic Mass Effect. Okay, it hurts.
They're making
I
mean,
don't
I'll get
trust
into
it.
Mass
I don't
Effect.
trust it.
Yeah,
I got
Yeah,
it dropped
because
for
that
$5,
in my
and I
opinion-
still want my money back.
What did you get for $5?
Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh,
No,
I haven't even tried that.
That's
a
just your
privilege.
own fault. Let's be real.
Yeah, you're
My friend Tony got it, and she got it when it first came out, and she was like,
Oh.
she would come into the Discord every now and then and be like, "It's good, it's good, it's good," and then eventually she was
issue
like,
is
"I
that,
hate
I
it."
mean, it's not Mass Effect. It's just another science fiction game.
I just couldn't get over
Yeah.
the faces. Like I saw the trailers and then I
Oh,
saw
God.
the actual like
wiring.
the wiring of the expressions and stuff, and I think that's about the only time I've just about cried when I saw what they it's that scene. They massacred my boy.
Look what they did to my boy.
Anyway,
Oh, God,
before we get
okay.
off too much on a tangent there, Spence, how about you as far as like teenage years? You started with Mario and like the platformers and the All Stars and everything. So when you got into your teenage years, what was your next big endeavor as far as any sort of games?
Okay. Okay. Then that the next biggest endeavor for me was Final Fantasy 9. That I know that that basically like one of the better Final Fantasies is either Final Fantasy 6 or else 3, just like depending on who you are speaking to. But it was just something about Final Fantasy 9 never ever playing a turn-based RPG like that. And then that was sort of like I kind of still played my platformers a bit, such as like my Ratchet and Clank, the Jack and Daxter series, because that Blockbuster was still around. Oh yes, and then how could I forget Spyro the Dragon? Because
Spyro's good.
two memories from my teenager years. I was so mad. Oh, it was like whenever 9/11 happened. I had rented
What?
Spyro 3
What?
Year of the
What?
Dragon, and I
What?
was mad at my parents because I couldn't play it.
I'm
TV.
sorry.
I had priorities, right? Back in the day.
God.
I was just
I'm sorry. I'm
the game
sorry,
so
Spence.
bad that we
I just
ended
heard
up
like
buying it.
it's
Oh
like when
no, it's
9/11
fine.
happened.
But anyway,
I know what you mean. Like you
I
mean
have
like it was
I have
very
a quick
memorable.
question for everybody. What game were you playing when 9/11 happened?
Sonic Adventure 2. Chow
but
game.
anyway, then that
All right, never
that
mind.
whenever then
Sorry.
I just started shifting towards like just like rated M games for some odd reason. And then that it was also whenever a friend had just like gave me a GameCube for free because I was into Pokemon cards, still going outside as a kid just because of my parents are like basically whenever I was living with them that I can only play the video games on at the weekends, so I would just basically just go outside on the weekdays and stuff. But I remember this like it was the back of my head that it was like Grand Theft Auto 5 had came out, and then I had went outside, played baseball by myself. I had like hit the ball over the levee up into the woods, so it got lost. So I had I had the brightest idea of walking around the neighborhood with just a bat. So I'm just like walking around. I was about, I want to say 10th grade at this point. I'm just like walking around the neighborhood with a bat, not doing anything at all, not even looking menacingly that I didn't think so. Like a black teenager just walking around a suburbia with a bat, that nothing could go wrong with that. And then it wasn't until my PE coach rode up on a bike and then he actually spoke to me and said like, "Hey, yo, Spence, that that I have been getting some neighbors calling you, and then that they've been saying that there's been a crazy man walking around with a bat." And then I'm like, "No." And then he was asking me like, why do you have this bat for? And I was just like, I was just walking around because I got done playing baseball, and then I had like lost my ball, so I decided to walk around the neighborhood. Well, flash forward to about 2 days later, that during PE. I actually get pulled out of class, and then I got to speak to a police officer because that apparently that the way I was swinging the bat and stuff that it was scaring people and stuff, and then that my parents said, and then that I got in huge trouble with my parents because of it, and then that they blamed it on GTA, even though that to this day my dad still thinks that I was influenced by Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which in fact I really wasn't.
You
You
know,
were influenced by Mario, actually, and you're trying to get the I'm sorry, I can't. But no, I
it
think
is.
I,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
like
we all have like
absolutely.
that.
Just like going around as Mario jumping on Goombas.
It
No,
is
I
kind of
think there's
interesting
like a
though.
lot of. Or yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it actually ties back into kind of what you were saying earlier though with your games, how there was kind of like a development of like parental fear when it came to video games. Like initially, like Grave, you were saying it was more the promiscuous stuff that they were so worried about. It wasn't so
Yeah.
much like the violence or like, is it scary or is it horrifying? But then like I remember too during my teenage years, especially when first person shooter games started coming out, that fear kind of flipped and all of a sudden the gore and the graphics and the violence wasn't okay anymore, and so we then started kind of having the parents be more fearful of GTA style games or like the war games like Call of Duty and everything like that. And it's kind of interesting how that evolved. So I do want to take a little bit of a tangent from that. So Spence, you kind of pointed to a specific example where your parents even tried to say that you were influenced by that. Nate, Topher, have either of y'all had situations like that where either you directly or someone in your life were accused of, hey, this game influenced you in a negative way, and then how did that turn out?
I can't think of anything like off the top of my head.
I mean, I've been told I'm going to hell for playing Dungeons and Dragons, but
I mean, yeah.
I got told that
Like
literally just earlier this year.
Like I once was handed a chick track, like
I got a chick track as a tip.
I mean, yeah, I hate it.
Okay, I feel like I feel like I've heard that before, but I'm blanking on it. Can someone explain that?
Chick track is like they're like these little single, like what is it? A single page, not a single page, but there's like a panel on every page.
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send it to you in Discord, and you just look at it.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Because when you say that, all I can think of is like hit clips from the 90s.
No, chick tracks are like basically they're basically like little comics meant to like convert people to
yeah.
to, like,
just look at what I sent you one. You just take a look at it and react.
But I don't remember anyone ever saying I was influenced or anyone I know being influenced. Now I did have a friend, Corey, who played what did he play? He played Donkey Kong 64 for like 4 days straight and would not come out of his house. I was like, yeah, I was pretty mad about it. But I mean, like, I've never had like a moment where anyone was like, oh, these games are rotting your brain. Like, honestly, it wasn't until like, D&D, like, that I actually heard anything like formally, like, oh, you're going to hell or you're rotting your brain with this. I heard it with movies because I love horror films, but.
Yeah, I didn't have it so much with movies, but I actually had an incident with a coworker this year who did not like me discussing D&D for that purpose of he thought it was devil worship and Satan worship and things like that. So when we were in group calls and everything, I couldn't bring it up when speaking with him. But as far as a real world scenario, though, yeah, it was silly. There was a guy that I knew that he actually was the clerk at
insane.
Yeah, at a liquor store that I went to, who his roommate ended up moving back in with his parents and quitting his job because he wanted to play WoW 24/7. I've never heard of that actually happening in real life for anyone that I know. But yeah, so the guy that was the clerk also had to move back in with his parents because he couldn't afford rent anymore because his roommate just packed up and said, I just want to be a neat for the rest of my life, apparently.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Okay, but so back on the topic at hand, Topher, for you, teenage games during your teenage years.
Yeah, like there's so many, but it's funny you talk about WoW at the end of that. I would say at least like my late teens, WoW was a big thing. And before that was a little MMO called Anarchy Online, which was a sci-fi cyberpunk MMO, which was really fun. Or at least it was really fun for me at the time. I have played it again recently. It doesn't hold up. It's very bad. It's actually not too bad. I shouldn't talk shit on it. But, like, oh shit, there's so many to name. Like Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne. Holy shit, I played the shit out of it. I didn't play I never played EverQuest. I wanted to, but
I played EverQuest.
you know, I never was able to, or like Ultima Online. But yeah, my teen years is when I started rifling through Nathan's stuff and looking at some of his games. Like I played a little bit of Baldur's Gate, a little bit of Fallout, a little bit of Icewind Dale. I think Icewind Dale and Planescape were like the two ones I actually managed to get into.
What type of games were those?
They're RPGs. Like Icewind Dale. Or go ahead.
I was just Planescape is still a classic. They just remastered it, and it's second edition Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D.
And Fallout is GURPS. It's like the original Fallout was actually modeled around a tabletop game called GURPS, and it had like that's where the whole like perk system and all that come from. Nowadays, if you play Fallout 3, 4, and like 76, it's like it's pretty much their own system at that point. With like flavorings from the original Fallout games. But I think that's when I started getting into that, and then a game that like really hit me was the original Halo. Like I think I played Halo, like the Halo games from like age 12 onward to age 21. Like I can't remember when I got out of Halo. Like I think it was like ODST or like that era, but Halo and Halo 2 specifically, I remember like me and my friends getting, and this is like, I think I could actually say that Halo 3 probably saved me from being like not really a shitty like it saved me from getting into a lot more trouble than I could have, because I had a friend of mine who was he was a little bit older. He was in his, I think I was like 15, 16 at the time, and he was cousins with one of my friends, and he was in his 20s, and then someone else that we knew that lived right across the street, who was my friend, who is actually one of my coworkers now. He would host LAN parties, and we'd just fucking straight play D&D. Not D&D. We're not there yet. We would play Halo. We would play Halo all the time. And he was the type of person that was like, if like he got to a point where someone stole his Xbox once, and then he was like, okay, if you're this old, or if you're getting in trouble, don't come to my house. Just stop coming to my house. Like he put his foot down, and it's like he kicked out a lot of, like he still had a lot of people that would come over and play, but he had a moment where he would just he just stopped talking with people. But fortunately, I, decided, playing Halo and watching films and stuff was better spent time than, running around and getting myself into trouble.
That's actually a tangent I kind of want to delve into too, as well, with, the advent of, LAN parties initially, and then eventually being able to play online. And I know there were some like older MMO style games that were technically multiplayer, like earlier than consoles kind of were able to hop on board with like major being able to play with friends.
Yeah, like MMOs were like pretty, like there were FPS games that had online functionality, but it was MMOs that really broke it out. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Fun fact I know about what is it? First person shooters is that Joe Rogan spent $3,000 to get fiber optic cable run to his house so he could be competitive at Quake.
Oh shit, that's old too. Damn, what is that? Quake, the original Quake, or
yeah, the original Quake.
But
I mean,
oh yeah.
So yeah, my question would be then, because this kind of is a segue into, you know, the next part, which is going to be playing as an adult. Um, would you say like there was any noticeable difference between playing just games online in general versus when you finally could start playing games with friends? So, you know, the
Oh, yeah.
online co-op and things like that. Like, what games did you play that you could actually party up with friends and play together, or do like co-op sessions and things like with Halo or something like that? Topher, we'll start with you. Like, how was that as far as social life and the changes that came with that?
Well, like I'm not like super great at being social. So like going into like I kind of was able to like I can like get through social situations if I really want to, but I'm pretty much a hermit for the most part. So like going between like LAN parties, which are like for me, it was always pretty close knit group of people that know each other and know what kind of people are with. It's kind of the same deal whenever I'm online. Usually, especially nowadays, I don't get online with people. Like I don't like talking with people too much about like that I don't know, or I don't let people in or out, or I don't like playing like in random groups on games very much. But I think there's there is sort of a like it's like an event when you're doing like a LAN party that you don't get anymore. Like you don't get the feeling of being in a room hanging out with friends and just well, you kind of get that with D&D, but
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, one of my fondest memories is beating
Memories.
the first Halo with Noah. You remember Noah?
Yeah, I remember Noah.
Yeah, we played the first Halo. We stayed up drinking who knows what, and we played until we beat Halo. So yeah, there is definitely a difference. I mean, it's fun. Like when we played Among Us as a crew, that's fun. But Among Us reminds us why we don't want to play with strangers, because when you're anonymous on the internet, everything is terrible.
That's kind of what I've heard a little bit about, like that Fall Guys game too. Like it's fun at first, but then it kind of gets grating playing with that many random players.
Oh yeah, like playing with randos, like especially like it's especially bad on a game like WoW or any MMO where you're trying to build up your character personally, and you have to go on the good graces of people in the party, and sometimes people in the party are not good people. They'll get like mad, or they'll do things, they'll troll the party, or they'll take things that you might need or
But
someone
they
else
are
might need.
it's either troll or tryhards up in the online community from my
Yeah.
experience.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
because in that it is a term that I call sweaty gamers, because then they are that they are just trying to be so good, so much that they are just start just getting sweaty, just kind of like greasy, stinky, and just overall just not nice people. And from just my experience before we segue up into the final topic, it was during college, because that another formative game of my teenage years was a lot of fighting games, especially Super Smash Brothers. And then I had went to college thinking that I was the best, like yeah, that that I am a top shit. Excuse my French, but yeah, just thinking like that. As soon as I got to college, got my tail whooped. I'm talking about like I am talking about like three stocked in less than two up in 2 minutes by this guy named Patches, mind you. So basically, then I had basically like looked up to them as a group. Hmm?
Okay, to be fair, Patches is the name of a badass.
That is a good point.
Yeah, it was a good point.
Oh yeah. That is a good point. But yeah, it is basically then that we had sort of kind of formed a gamer group up in college, and then it was just basically at the end of every quarter that we will all just get together, provide like chips, drinks, and then we will actually host like a tournament with real money and such. Basically, just just seeing like out of us and whoever was up in the dorm, that just basically that we would just be betting on like just who would win and stuff, and then that people would get like give just put in for food, and then that they got like 60% of that the cash pot. But as far as in like online gaming, I remember I had went behind my parents' back and got a PS3 Slim, and then to play Killzone 2 was my first ever online game to play multiplayer online. For those that don't know, Killzone 2 is basically it was a first person shooter of its kind, which was kind of top of the line before that Call of Duty changed the game with Modern Warfare 2, because they had this class system, such as somebody can be like that the heavy gunner, the saboteur, which was one of the best mechanics at the time, where you can basically take out somebody, and then you can become that rival player for just like a short period of time, and then you can just go around up into the enemy base, just like pretend to be helping out them, and then you just end up just spawn trapping people so much, and then that was just one of the great experiences. But as far as in my group, I try to keep it kind of close knit, because that online gaming wasn't as big to me as much. I don't know why, because I am just kind of like a lone wolf gamer in a sense.
I can
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
that, especially with, like you were saying, you have to deal with the griefers and the tryhards, and sometimes you just want to load up a game and just enjoy it and not have to have it be a competition. So, um, Nate, before we go on to the final section, was there anything that you had as far as like when you first started playing, like with people online or anything?
My experience was EverQuest, and the first real time where I paid my own subscription. I had my first job. And it was fun. It was more of a community, you know.
Yeah, I don't
You
think
could find,
MMOs are much of a community anymore.
well, everybody wants to be the next superstar. I know it's ironic to say that on a podcast, but everybody wants to be the next stream. They got to get good material that'll get likes, easy likes. And, back then we were just a bunch of nerds.
Hmm.
I
It was
mean,
still
as
fun.
opposed to
Well,
now, though, really?
oh
It's
yeah,
nerds with an agenda. Back then, nobody would have thought anybody
uh,
would want to watch us play video games.
yeah. I cannot imagine like me back then looking at the state of gaming and media nowadays to see like something like Twitch or YouTube where people just make millions of
Right.
dollars or just even have a comfortable living just going
Well,
online
our
and playing games.
podcast I listen to on QAnon, they debunk QAnon, and they get $36,000 a month in
Yeah, that's
subscriber money.
Hey, can we talk up? Can we? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's like the big thing for me though. Like in terms of like doing something like in person versus like online. Online is more casual, like, but in person is just it's like an event. Like it's like D&D, but
Well,
yeah,
it's
you
like
can.
extra life, it's always
Yeah.
much more fulfilling when we actually
Yeah.
had everybody in the same room together getting
Oh,
to play
definitely.
versus just, alternating between different people playing with different parties on different nights and not
Yeah.
really being able to participate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Like I think like I loved this last extra life we did, but I don't think anything can like really top the night we went 24 hours just because of how insane it was.
Never doing it
I
again, but it was
mean,
a once in a lifetime experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean that, it's just basically, like as that since that I guess that we've already segued it up into that the dealing, being a gamer as an adult now, it's just basically for me personally that I had just had this heart-to-heart talk with just my dad, and then he just like, I understand that you still play games and stuff. I hope that you would have been broken out of it right now. And then I'm basically just told him straight up, like without these games that you had introduced me to, I probably would have been a statistic or something. Just like not making good decisions or anything. And then that that I was the only child that they kept me entertained this long, and basically that it's just basically now as an adult I just feel like that I don't need to try to prove myself to be that the next 16-year-old kid winning like 4 million from playing Fortnite or anything like that. I just want to just relax, have fun, and tell awesome stories with friends and like-minded people.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
think also
yeah.
kind of with modern times, as of right now, with the Backstreet Boys reunion tour and not being able to go out and see people, there is something to be said about having these avenues for being social and being around people that you know and you love without physically being able to be near them.
Oh yeah.
And so then, Topher, we'll go back to you. What about modern gaming for you?
Modern gaming, I'm gonna go into like two different ways. I'm gonna first talk about Exalted. I think was like I started a little bit later than Nathan when it came to like tabletop RPGs, but the first one I really got into was Exalted. It was actually he was the one that was like brave enough to throw me into a game for the first time. I actually remember my character.
It was a solo one-on-one game.
Well, that was after that, actually. Like, you actually, because what had happened was you let me make a Twilight cast Solar, which, like, okay, so all the Exalted characters are based off, or all the classes are based off, like, phases of the sun. Like, there's a Zenith, Twilight, uh, uh,
Just
yeah.
just think, when you think of Exalted, just think Greek mythology meets anime.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what it is. So like I remember you helped me make that character and I was like super pumped to play it because I was like, oh this seems cool. And it was really fun playing. We're gonna go back to Noah. I was in his game for one game and then that group disbanded. And after that, Nathan was like, "Okay, fuck it. I'll just run a single game with a you play this non-exalted character. Well, I think I just named Shin Long or something like that. I don't remember. Um, and I went. He just like threw my like it was. It was funny because he just like Nathan's playstyle for running games is like there was players through a meat grinder, but it was also really fun and engaging. And like I kind of got addicted to like that feeling. And then from that, I think Huey and I got a lot closer after like I started playing with Huey. And he had a few many big games, and I think we had like 5 years worth of like Exalted under our belt. And before before we started playing 5e, we would kind of go into D&D every now and then, but we like there was a good chunk where we were just Exalted. And then like a little bit after that, like during our steampunk phase, we did D20 Modern, which was like the modern version of D&D, where we would do our steampunk game. And then obviously we're now into D&D. I don't think, like, aside from Monster of the Week, I don't think I can think of a game I would rather play than D&D 5e right now, because I just think it's a well-made and serviceable, like, fantasy RPG.
It's well balanced, is what it is.
Yeah. It's very well balanced. It's easy to mod. It's easy to, like, you can go crunchy with it. You can go role play with it. You can just like chop it and screw it how you want, and which is one of the things I love about not just D&D, but about tabletop RPGs in general. But yeah, I think that has been like it's helped me a lot, because I think like I mean, I keep talking about being kind of a troublemaker as a kid, but like I think that helps like kind of keep me going in terms of just everything that was happening in my life. I mean, I think at the time I was just like very unsatisfied with everything that was happening, and I wanted more, but I wasn't really willing to work for it at the time. And like school wasn't working out, and like it gave me something to look forward to, especially after working at a freaking restaurant for years. Oh yeah, we also Hewitt and I made a steampunk LARP at one point. It was mostly him. I helped, but yeah, I do miss the steampunk games.
LARPing is always one of those things that like I saw when I was like a young adult and a teenager that I wanted to get into, but it's one of those things, if you don't know the right people, there's just no way to get into it.
Yeah, our LARPs were more like story and just an exploration focus. We tried to coax a little bit of fighting every now and then, but most people would not want it to happen because they would be scared of losing their characters. Because our system we made was pretty brutal. Like you could die pretty quick. But yeah, I can't think of well, Mass Effect was pretty, like, especially Mass Effect 2, like, would probably be one of my favorite, like, more modern RPGs. Because I think Mass Effect 2, like, kind of, it really, like, it had that video game quality, but it also was loose-ended enough to not feel complete. Like, it was linear, but it had a lot of little things. And at the time, I think it was like the closest you're going to get to a game that was non-linear in the sense of a story. Which, yeah, I don't know. Like it's really hard to like think, like, because there's a lot of games I like now, like the newest Resident Evil, like the Resident Evil remakes that they came out. Like I know people kind of shit on 3, but like the Resident Evil 2 remake is amazing. It's like it's instantly one of my favorite games, and I will just sit and play that some days. I'll beat it in one sitting. I love it.
It's kind of fun how that comes back around too, of like some of the first games that you ever play back to a really good time sink of a really good remake that you can just pick up and continue playing now.
And the Resident Evil 1 remake is really good too. It's also on computer. They have the HD remaster of it, and it is really fun. Like,
all right, and then Nate, for you, what do you spend most of your time playing nowadays? Where do you put your efforts, and what do you enjoy?
The very little time I have to play games, especially since I'm a teacher, and it's been a difficult year trying to manage everything. But I like very difficult roguelikes. Like I'm talking, like I don't know why. I've been playing Noikata. I played what was that? I played Blasphemous lately. I played Broforce. I don't know if you know anything about Broforce. I probably have 90 hours into Broforce. It's like,
what is that game?
It's like it's a side scroller that is extra difficult. That has a lot of it's like the Expendables. It's got all the action movie tropes. It's got like basically stand-ins for Rambo, Time Cop, Predator.
yeah, it's basically like a parody game of like all the machismo action films from like the 90s and early 00s.
Gotcha.
Or like the 80s to early 00s.
Yeah. Yeah, it is ridiculously hard and super fun. And I don't know. I just enjoy the difficult games now. I don't know why. Like I like playing XCOM. I don't know if any of y'all have like XCOM.
I'm a big XCOM 2 fan. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
Good. I enjoy getting frustrated, and I don't know why.
It also has an element too of like with XCOM for me at least, it's almost like you want to do it as perfectly as possible. It's not always perfect, but like it's not just good enough to run and gun my way through. I want to set everything up and make sure I really get the best advantage I possibly can. And then usually everything goes to hell, but it's fun to at least try to get those setups as best as possible.
Right. And and lately I've been painting Warhammer too. I
Oh, yeah, I've
played a
been
little
doing
bit
that
with
too.
Chris or Topher, sorry, or whatever you're going by.
There's so many names.
Everything, all of the above, whichever. And I know
God, now I want to paint my Space Marine. Shit.
that's what I was about to say. Both of y'all have kind of gotten into the mini painting as well, so it's kind of nice that things like games can bleed over into physical hobbies too, like things that are related. But it is painting.
yeah.
It's figure painting. It's almost more of
Yeah.
an artistic flair to it. But it's good that those things can
Yeah,
kind of interconnect.
it's actually it's like kind of hitting like an old artistic thing for me because I was an art kid, and
You were
Right.
definitely one of the most talented. And I remember one time we were working, and you opened a thing of salt and made a portrait in salt on the table.
I was very bored that day. I remember that. But like I don't draw much anymore, but painting has kind of unlocked that, and now I've been looking past gaming miniatures, and I've been looking at the bust miniatures. I've been looking at display minis to see like if I could really flex like a creative muscle with those. But yeah, it's definitely good to have like gaming as a hobby that can
I
like.
am honestly surprised that you haven't tried using Blender or else ZBrush Mini to do some digital sculpting for characters, Chris. I mean, Gray.
I like how everyone is like, Chris, great, Zeta, shit. Uh, no, I actually have ZBrush on my stuff. I downloaded it looking to use it at one point, and I just never think to use it. Like, I never get inspired to use it. Or, like, I need to just sit down and start doing it to get it done. I actually also have a digital pad to draw with. It's just I have this weird thing with art where I can't look at my. It's one of the reasons why I like mini painting. I can't look at my art in a positive light. It's like nearly impossible for me. But my mini painting, I can see when I'm doing really fucking good with my mini painting. I'm not just trying to brag. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
I can
and
be satisfied with my minis. It's hard for me to be satisfied with my drawings
right,
now.
And if anybody does
right.
want to
Understand.
watch him paint, we do indeed have him as one of our members on stream. And actually, I believe, yep, the command just popped up in chat for
Oh,
anybody who
nice.
would like
Thank you.
to give him a follow so that you can watch the figure painting.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna be figure painting, not tonight, but sometime next,
Fine.
whenever.
Well, if you ever want to get set up here, we can stream through me, and I have plenty for us to.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
But I think that's actually all that we have time for tonight for our episode of Bonus Roundtable. Does anybody have any final statements, right quick, before we wrap it up?
I would like to plug my Instagram if I can. It's
Sure.
Nate Paints Warhammer. Just one thing. Nate Paints Warhammer. It all runs together. You can see the minis I paint. I have plenty of the minis to paint. I'm going to post at least once a day. So you'll get to see, get feedback, and if you want to nerd out with me, I love it.
Spence, what about you? Anything to close on?
Course, that you want to follow me all across social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. It is a Ninjaspence 21 on my Twitch. I mainly been doing a lot of just Dark Souls 3 gaming along with a few bit of art streams and stuff. And who knows that I might be opening up commissions next year. So if that you got D&D or any other RPG characters that you want commissioned, try to stop in and then just we can work out something.
All right, and then Graveflower. Any last thing?
Yeah, you can also catch me on the Instagram at uh, the Graveflower. I don't post nearly as often as my brother. I need to, but I'm also very slow at painting. So, yeah, I will be posting stuff there starting soon. And I also have, as I mentioned before, I have my own channel, the Graveflower, which I do painting, and I also play games. Recently, I just got done playing Soma, which is a horror game, and I'm going to be playing. I'm just going to be doing more casual streaming here soon. Like later tonight, I'll be playing Dark Souls. So if you want to come watch me be bad at Dark Souls, yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it for the night tonight. Again, this has been a bonus roundtable. We will be trying to do this every Thursday. Next Thursday, due to it being a holiday, we probably will not be able to get a podcast in next week. But in general, just follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at Team Bonus Action, and of course, we've got all of our links on our Twitch page if you'd like to follow us. But this has been TBA presenting Bonus Roundtable, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you later.
See you later.